Hello, welcome. All right. Just taking a moment to arrive, get started. Our call today is about using coaching or how we can use coaching to um, balance out or decrease the stress in our lives and the stress in other people's lives. So, no matter what it is that you think about coaching, whether you are enamored with the idea of becoming a coach or you feel ambivalent about it or the field in general, coaching is a powerful tool that can, among many other things, combat stress. And this is why I teach it, because it's a technique that can be applied at many skill levels and in many situations to do something positive. So while it takes time and effort to really build out the coaching as an advanced tool, the basic understanding or the understanding of the basics and even the application of some of the basics right off the bat can make changes in the way that we work, and those changes in the way that we engage, and those changes just increase over time. So meaning that the more that we learn them, the better that we get at it, the more that we'll wind up um, being able to help others. To the greater degree, we'll be able to help others. So, first of all, why this topic today, right? Why are we talking about stress right now? And one is because we all experience stress. So sometimes it's manageable, sometimes it's not manageable. And also, not only do we experience stress, right, but everybody that we meet experiences stress. And it's become known as the silent killer because of the fact that stress contributes to all the other problems that we have, the health problems, the mental health problems that we see, heart disease, depression, anxiety. And it impacts our what is most important to us, like our personal and professional relationships. So it doesn't just affect us on these physical levels, right? It also it can destroy our connections. It can break communication and trust, decrease our well-being. It can be the reason that we experience. I can be sorry, just letting somebody in. So it can be a reason that we experience a lot of problems in our life. So if you think about the last time that you were stressed out, right? And you think about you were stressed out and then somebody approached you with maybe what would be a normal issue or something that on any given day you would be able to have a solution to. But on this day when you're experiencing stress, we all know that our responses are less optimal, even if it just means that we're a little bit strained, right? But sometimes it means that we do something that's actually problematic. So these things, whether they're in our practice, in the workplace, or at home, wind up having a significant effect overall on the well-being and the health of our relationships. So that is it winds up being something that is quite a critical thing for us to focus on and to get a handle on. And so why are we stressed out, right? So there's been many reasons that have been given for high stress levels at this particular point in time. And they are, global uncertainty, economic pressures, technological overload, work-life imbalance, social isolation, political polarization, anxiety about our environment, health concerns. But all of these things are stressors for individuals, and they can often interact with each other and be stressful across, across multiple stressors. And also but the main issue is that we have a lack of coping resources. So we know that no matter what happens in life, we're going to experience a certain amount of stress. Now, collectively, we're experiencing a lot more, like an even higher amount of stress. But the thing that really gets us is the inability to cope with what it is that is, what's going on, what the situation is that is coming up. So that's where coaching comes in, because coaching gives the tools, the resources, the ability to be able to work with these stressors as they come up. So some of the problems that happen along the way is that people try to handle stress kind of like reactively, rather than deal with it from, to try to solve it or eliminate it or a proactive direction. So it's one of the things that happens. There's also, many people think that there's nothing that can be done about it. Stress is just the way that life is. So they take a medication or they self-medicate or something like that in order to try to balance out how they're feeling. But overall, they don't actually really feel that there's a solution. And this often happens because sometimes people try something, like they try a particular technique, and then they're like, well, I tried that when I was really stressed out and it didn't work. I tried my deep breathing or whatever, and it didn't really work. And so then they think, well, this isn't really a solvable situation. I should take medication, or I just need to try and shut it out. So actually, education is really helpful there. So also, leaders also often ignore the emotional aspects of stress and focus too much on the productivity or the efficiency end of it. And mostly this is done because the leaders don't know how or what to do otherwise. It's not because of like a lack of care. It is because that certain skills were developed and certain skills were not developed. And that's one of the reasons that coaching winds up becoming so helpful, because when a leader learns how to work in a coaching manner with others, then they start to have this whole other set of tools to be able to use. And when we're experiencing stress that's between two people, or in a group, many times there is an attempt to try and solve the problem, which sometimes actually increases the stress. Sometimes you can get rid of a problem and that's good. But when a lot of times what needs to happen is there needs to be a change in the relational dynamic. When that change happens, then new solutions start to come forward. And when we jump to that too quickly, then sometimes we can experience real challenges. So, as I was saying before, very often in the past that people were thinking that stress was something that needed to be pushed through or overcome. And it was said to be a part of life that you just needed to be kind of tough enough to deal with. And that still exists in our thinking in many ways. And so that is that thinking really didn't develop our skills. So whenever we think that a problem is just something like it can't be worked with, it doesn't have a solution, then we don't actively engage in it in order to find a new way. And this is a problem in many different areas, not just in relationship to stress. And it is something that coaching helps with. coaching helps us see how to solve problems. And in being able to see how to better solve problems, we can both deal with stress and with a number of other problems that are along for the ride. So now, if we're working a more evolved approach, or what is starting to make more and more sense to more people, is that the way that we work through what is happening makes all the difference. So that is the way that we engage with others, how we get to the solution, how we think about the problem, are all things that wind up decreasing stress over time and eliminating it for the future. So we're not just dealing with stress in the moment, for example, deep breathing technique, that might be helpful, but we're also finding a way to work with it mentally and emotionally that winds up helping over and over again over time, and even eliminating the stress as we go. So this is a problem that everybody has. This is a problem that gets in the way in a significant way, whether you want to say gets in the way of the bottom line numbers, or gets in the way of the interpersonal relationships, or the ability to have success. And it's something that can be changed through learning certain basic skills. And we're going to go into those basic skills here in just a moment. But examples of how this works in coaching, or when coaching is applied. Right. So there's a business owner that I worked with who integrated coaching into her leadership. And the immediate result of that was a change in office negativity, because people started to, one, have an outlet for what it was that they were otherwise not knowing how to say. And two, they were learning skills around communication themselves. So this was so effective and improved the quality of her business so much that then she paid for 3 of her leadership to take the coaching course as well, because they were then able to build a really solid team structure and way of working with people just by learning some of these basic skills. And that is before even learning to become a coach, meaning, using this as a primary means of business. This is a way of just using coaching to help in whatever way you're working in the world. So, and it's not just business owners or managers or things like that. It's really anybody who works with anybody. And so a lot of times there's practitioners, and a practitioner is, say, an acupuncturist or a chiropractor, who is experiencing like a fallout. Their clients aren't able to stay with the process of what it is that they're doing. And we could say, if we wanted to just very much generalize, we could say that one of the main reasons for that would be life stress. And so so one of the reasons for that would be life stress. Hold on one second. Oh, somebody's not muted. If you could just go ahead and mute yourself, that would be helpful. Thank you. So this is something that gets done time and time again, where the practitioner is able to integrate just a little bit of coaching before and after the work that they're doing. And because of this, they see more consistency in their clients, and attending sessions and being successful with the work. So those are some ways that it can look once it reaches the world. But one of the main things that people say to me, this is like, I hear this every single time, which is, I was surprised at how much this affected my personal life. That I knew it was going to affect my ability to work professionally in these various different ways, or I was looking forward to being able to help others, but I didn't know how much it was going to affect my ability to, or affect my overall, my day-to-day life, my ability to be with other people. So there are 5 basic or 5 skills from coaching that I'm going to talk about today. There are a lot of coaching skills. Some of them are very important. This first one that I'm going to mention is extremely important, and is cornerstone of coaching. But while there are many different coaching skills, there are, like I was saying, some foundations. And this is one of the foundations, which is active listening. So active listening is about being fully present and being able to listen beyond the words of what someone's saying to really get at what is going on for them. So in this case, if we're talking about stress, right, it would be to really understand what is actually stressing this person out. So now some people have a greater capacity to listen than others right off the bat. But the good news is that this is actually a skill that everyone can learn. It's just everyone starts in a different place with it. But everybody can learn this and get good at it. It really is just a matter of willingness to practice. And so in active listening, you use certain techniques to reflect back to the person what it is that you're hearing. And like I said, some people, this is easier for than other people, but what happens regardless is that when you get that when you reflect back, and the person you're talking to has an opportunity to be able to share with you whether or not you've understood them, what you learn is how to attune to what another person is saying. That's what happens over time, almost like sonar. And so you start to be able to hear or feel or sense when you're getting a person or not. And this skill allows you to work with people faster, more effectively. It allows you to be able to get to a problem or to alleviate a problem more quickly just in the process of listening. So it's a very important skill. It's called active, right? Because you're hearing the person and then you're letting them know how you hear them. And a lot of times when we listen to someone, we hear them, but we don't actually confirm or let them know how we hear them. And then there's a breakdown in communication. And we can go fairly far with this. If you've established enough trust with someone, you don't necessarily need to use a very highly developed active listening process, because you can get away there. There's a lot of trust and understanding that's already established. But the more tense a situation is, or the less understanding there is, or those kind of things, the more it helps. For someone who's in leadership to spend some time listening before fixing, solving, or pointing a finger or something like that helps immeasurably. So for somebody who is working with clients, then it's like they will get better at knowing what the actual problem is through going through that process. So some of the best, like you look at like diagnosis, when somebody somebody comes with a problem and the practitioner of whatever kind is able to listen to it and say, I think this is what's going on with you. Right? I think it might be this vertebrae, or I think that, it might be this muscle or whatever. That ability grows because the person is able to listen at greater depths to just the individual, and then they're able to also listen with their specialized knowledge. So it's a very, very important skill, and you can use it pretty much anytime. The only time you don't really want to use it because it's a bit slow, it can slow things down a little bit, is like if there's a fire, literally or otherwise, where that's not the time to really tune in that way. That's the time for action, because there's a problem that could bring physical harm to another person, right? You don't use it in those kind of situations. You don't use it in that. But if it's an emotionally volatile and you don't have a time or situational pressure, can be very helpful. So the second skill is about powerful questions. So asking the right questions to guide people towards their own solutions. So this is important because one of the things that people often think is that, and especially when they go to coach, they're like, well, but I don't know the answers to this or that. And it's like, that's actually not your job, or that's not what the tool of coaching is. A consultant might answer questions like that. A teacher might answer questions, but a coach actually learns to ask very valuable questions, powerful questions that the client answers themselves or the employee answers themselves. And so that is, the other person is coming up with the answers just by the nature of that. Do you think, fill in the blank. And the other person, it is, or, what do you think about this? And the other person answers, and that's their truth that's coming forward. Now, that might be an initial answer that they evaluate, they develop over time. And it doesn't end up being their ultimate answer, but it's still coming from them. They're starting to find their own answers to the situation, and they're being guided through the questions. So employees feel more empowered, they feel more valued. And in the coaching relationship, the client gets stronger and stronger because they become more and more knowledgeable about who they are and how they can best, and that they can answer questions, their concerns themselves. So questions are very important to help the client see their own solution. And so sometimes somebody will step in thinking that it's really important, like this problem needs to be solved. It's really important that we solve it now. And so here's what I'd like you to do. And that can work in certain situations, but it will never get the full buy-in from the client until they're able to integrate it and understand it themselves. So you can kind of fix that whole process by asking the client how they're seeing it, and then helping that process, helping them evolve their way of thinking about the situation, their way of solving the problem. And there's leadership styles out there that lean heavily on coaching that use this. Obviously, again, there are times where this isn't possible, or if the employee or doesn't have enough skill to really be able to start to solve the problem they're being faced with at their work, they might need education in addition to powerful questions. But you can at least help them see where they are and help them learn to answer the questions that they're facing. And so that helps a lot in creating clarity, in creating empowerment, and coming up with solutions that maybe you wouldn't come up with that are really good. So the third is emotional regulation. So this is about staying calm under pressure. And one of the ways that I love that coaching teaches this, right? So it teaches it through perspective a lot of times. It teaches us through bringing awareness and consciousness into our lives or into our clients' lives. But it also, we learn it through the process of coaching. So coaching itself gives us an opportunity to be able to face certain types of situations that we wouldn't face, where we're to keep things, out of this highly, this powerful working environment. And so and sometimes through conflict, sometimes through some of the other through the disagreements and the uncertainties of the process, we actually learn how to stay clear in relationship to what it is that is coming our way. as well as learn awareness because of the technique. But we actually start to feel like our ability to stay clear and to navigate and to look at what the next best question is or situation is, or not to take things personally. All of those things get developed through learning and practicing coaching. That is a kind of like a layer or like a wheel inside of a wheel of how it works. So it's best, there are additional tools of emotional regulation that can be taught, right? That help that can be introduced into a coaching process. And these are best taught in advance, and they're best practice or applied during crisis after they've been practiced in advance. But when we look at this overall, what we're learning new frames for how to look at things, and that breaks up our triggers, it breaks up our preconceived notions, and it allows us to then be just in a much more relaxed place with whatever it is that comes our way. And as we ask questions from this neutral place of whoever we're working with, they also learn this skill. So it just in the same way that you could see people who were raised by really volatile parents might have a harder time with emotional regulation. The same thing applies the opposite way, the positive way, that we can actually model this, show ways to build in more of a balanced way of being. And we can learn this at any point in time. So as you can see, all of these would be helpful in working with stress. So also creating goals. So when I'm teaching the basic coaching structure, one of the things that I point out is how having a clear destination in mind for the session helps people be able to know so much. They get to know about what's motivating them. They get to know about the things that they aspire to, the things that they thought that they wanted that they didn't really want. They get to know whether they're good at setting goals, if they know what it is that they want, if they know how to build pathways to what they want. We get all of that information by setting a goal. It's not so much that the goal, like it's like that would, like, coaching is all about meeting goals. It isn't. It's actually through the process of setting goals, we recognize so much about the process of creation and who we are inside of that then we get to use that with greater skill and with greater awareness. And that helps us immeasurably. So we can use this for, this can be for planning sessions when there's poor performance overall, but the actually using goals helps across the board in life. People start seeing their life clearly. They start seeing that they can do things that they didn't think that they would be able to do. And it gives a sense of, in a relationship, it can give a sense of like a joint venture or a shared direction. It can make stress more manageable by providing for a feeling of like a step by step, like I only have to take the next step and then the next step, and that I know each one that I need to do, so I can just focus on it. And empowering, again, because there's something that can be done about my situation. I can take steps in the direction of what it is that I'm wanting. All of these things help to not only make a person more effective, more productive, happier, all of that kind of stuff, they also help to reduce stress. And finally, the fifth skill is accountability. So keeping yourself and others accountable helps reduce stress long term. Why? Because the more we do what we say we're going to do, the happier we are overall. And the less kind of static that there is in the mix, And the more that we can kind of stick with it, the clearer and our lives feel. The more energy we have to put towards what it is that we want. So our accountability feels good because it is connected to integrity. And it also feels good because it clears out all of the other things, all of the, arguments inside of us about not doing something. And we get busy doing what it is that is really important. So the accountability, when you're using it with another person, you're saying, hey, you said you were going to, but you didn't, right? Or you said you were going to, did you? When you make those kind of statements to anybody, aside from maybe children, it's very important that it is used on at agreed to times. Because it's like you don't want to interrupt a person or when they're doing something else to remind them that they forgot about something they were supposed to do, or if their experience of running into you is that you're going to be like, well, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? It might not be effective. It might be counter, or like the opposite. So you always have permission that the person wants you to hold them accountable, and then also that and that you do it in a way that is really respectful of their person, their adulthood, their capacity. And so that's something to learn. And we have different versions are effective with different people in our life. But accountability overall, like I said, helps us feel good, and it helps free up stress. And then we stop saying that we're going to commit to things that we're not going to do. And we say we're going to commit to things that we are going to do. And then our life looks more like we want it to look. And that is impacts our overall health. So those are the 5 main tools, right? Not the 5 tools that I'm talking about today in terms of coaching skills. Both active listening and powerful questions are 2 very, very important parts of the coaching process. And that you can be used many, many different ways. These are all very important techniques, but those are 2 are particularly important and can be applied in pretty much every situation. So you don't necessarily need to want to become a coach to benefit from coaching, right? From benefit from learning coaching. And this is something that it's like, if you want to learn it as a skill to work with others, it has an incredible capacity to expand and to be able to work with other people in a very powerful and robust way. But it also, even for those people who are not wanting to do that, it helps leaders, it helps business owners, it helps practitioners, it helps every single person be more effective in what they do, in the way that they relate and work with others. So it's a very powerful tool to add in. I say this so often because I believe it to be absolutely true, which is pretty much anybody who interacts with people can benefit from learning coaching skills or something similar to coaching skills. It is like, I think it should be part of like basic curriculum in high school, because it's such a powerful thing for people to add into their lives. So if you're thinking that you would like to learn coaching or become a coach, as you might know, I have a 6-month online program, and it will give you a certificate in coaching so that you can start working professionally as a coach, earning money as a coach, or using coaching in your life. And if you'd like to get started with that, you can book a free 30-minute consult with me. And we will talk about really what coaching might look like for you. I'm going to add that link into the chat. And we'll add it here right below this video too, if you're watching the video. So I want to thank you for coming, and I hope to talk to you soon.